What is going on, everybody? Dropping a second brilliant move tutorial. It's more or less a challenge where I show you different positions and I give you time to pause the video so you can do it at your own pace, and you have to guess what the brilliant move is to come. I can only recommend, I can't force you. I have a playlist in the description. Check it out. It has all my other quizzes or tutorials or challenges, whatever you want to call them. They range from general knowledge to back rank mates, smother mates, brilliant moves, stalemates and draws, sacrifices, night forks, and more to come as well in the future. Check it out. Last time I'll mention it. Let's get this going. Here's the first problem. Black makes the move, pawn capture, e5. And remind you, I'm trying to keep this video as short as possible. I'll give you an opportunity to pause it right now. Give you 3 seconds. 1, 2, and 3. The brilliant move that I make is knight captures e5. That's a free pawn, because even if the bishop captures the knight, which it looks like it's not protected, you have the finishing move, queen h5 check, and once the king gets out of check by either blocking or moving, you can go ahead and pick up the bishop. So you basically exchange the knight for the bishop, and you picked up the free pawn. On to the next. Moving on, this next problem will be done in a jiffy, which is actually a measurement of time. Something to do with like light and how long it takes for it to go a millimeter, like that's for a centimeter. Yeah. So white makes the move, bishop to b2. And that sets us up for a brilliant move. I'll give you 3 seconds to pause the video. 1, 2, and 3. The brilliant move is rook to h1 check. That king has no move other than to capture the rook. Once it does so, the dark squared bishop and queen have a battery, and the queen can just go to h2 for checkmate. Here's a nice and early one on move 7. Black makes the move g6, and you have an X-clam ahead. Give you 3 seconds to pause if you need it. 1, 2, and 3. The move is queen to f3, bam! And the reason is because you're leaving the knight hang in the middle, and black's best move from here is actually bringing the knight to e5. It doesn't only hit the bishop and the queen, it protects f7 as well. Your best move from here is bringing the queen to f6, and that jeopardizes the rook in the corner. So if they take your bishop, you get the rook. If not, you got plenty of other things to work ahead, but you only have a very slight advantage. On to the next. On this next one, black captures the pawn on d4 and sets up a beautiful act for white. Go ahead and pause the video now to find the brilliancy if you need more time. 1, 2, and 3. The move is bishop to h6, X-clam. The reason it's a brilliant, you're leaving the bishop on c4 hanging. That can be captured by the queen. The pawn can't capture the bishop, which is brillianted, because if it was, queen to g8 would be checkmate. And if you go ahead and capture the hanging bishop, queen to g7 would be checkmate. Black captures the pawn on a5. This is a very beautiful motif here. There's a brilliant move by white, and if you need more time, we'll give you 3 seconds to pause the video. 1, 2, and 3. The move of the day is rook to d8. Since that comes with check, black is more or less forced to capture us, and then we can recapture with the bishop. If they didn't recapture us, we could take the rook in the corner, and then we're basically up a piece, since we still have 2 attackers on the bishop. Once we recapture, they can go ahead and try to move the rook, but we have 2 attackers on the bishop still, and they can't move the bishop because then the rook would fall. So the rook tries to reposition itself to go to the d file to attack the bishop and threaten a back rank, but it's too late. Since we have 2 attackers on the bishop, there's nothing that they can do, because we can always bring our bishop back to e1, and it prevents a back rank checkmate. On to the next. Number 6. Black makes the move, knight to b3. Give you 3 seconds to go ahead and be able to pause the video if you need more time. 1, 2, and 3. The brilliant move is simply bringing the bishop to b2 exclam. That knight is aiming at the rook and the bishop. There's no stopping it from taking one of them, and the only way to continue covering the other one that gets captured to be able to recapture is bishop to b2. Here's a nice smooth one. White makes the move, bishop d4. Black's move, and black to exclam. Give you 3 seconds to pause the video if you need to. 1, 2, and 3. The move is rook to f1 check. King is squareless for moves, so the queen has to take. And then once that happens, you're good to move your queen to h2 checkmate. Beautiful. Here's a real doer-upper for you. White plays the move, b4. I'll give you 3 seconds to pause the video if you need some more time. 1, 2, and 3. The move of the minute is queen capture a3 exclam. Boom. White's best move from here is bringing the queen to c2, but unfortunately they captured and then they let me capture. So that's the way the cookie crumbled. On to the next. This is going to be real tight to finish this video in 9 minutes. The bishop comes to d4. I'll give you 3 seconds to pause the video. 1, 2, 3. Rook comes to f1, forcing the queen to recapture, allowing us to bring the queen to h2 checkmate. For this last one, black is in check, and they have to back out to d8. I'll give you 3 seconds to pause the video. I would give it a little thought. This is pretty juicy. And 1, 2, and 3. The brilliant move is bishop a5 skewer, hitting that queen. And they're basically foobarred. If that queen tries capturing the bishop, because they don't have anything they can throw between it, it's not going to end good for them. We got rook d4 capture, check. They're going to bring the queen in. And from here, we got queen c8 check, forced move to e7, and then from here we got queen c7 check. They can bring their king right to e8 is the best move, and simply put, bishop to f7 seals the deal. One thing we have to tie up, like Speedy Gonzalez, they did not have to take our bishop with their queen. If they want to make it checkmate in 6 instead of checkmate in 4, instead of taking our bishop, they can go ahead and take their bishop on h8 and check us. We sidestep the king. They bring their bishop to f4 to make sure that they can recapture our bishop when our bishop takes the queen. Once they recapture, we can go ahead and take the pawn on d4 with check. They could either go to e7 or e8. If they go to e8, we take our queen and we go to c8. Then they have to push their king to e7, but it's okay. We take our bishop to g8 with a discovery check with the rook on e1. Then they're really fucked because the only thing that they could do is block with the bishop, and then we could just bring our queen to d8 for checkmate. The other possibility, instead of bringing their king to e8 right away when we checked them with the rook, they could bring it to e7. If that's the case, we go ahead and capture their bishop with our queen with check. If they put their king in the back row on either e8 or f8, it's okay because then we can put our rook that's on d4, bring it to d8, and that's wha-bam, bam, thank you, ma'am. But if they don't want to go to the back row, they can always put their knight in between the two. And if that's the case, we check him with the queen and capture it at the same time. They got to back up to f8. Then we go queen f7, checkmate. Boom. Yeah.